The Girl in the Spider's Web is directed by Fede Alvarez and it stars Claire Foy as Lisbeth Salander. This is a film that is not very clear on what it is exactly, either a reboot or continuation of the David Fincher remake of the Swedish original films. And we follow computer hacker Lisbeth and journalist Michael Blomkvist, who find themselves caught in a web of spies, cybercriminals, and corrupt government officials. Now, I've been a fan of these films ever since the original Swedish trilogy. I've actually even read the original book. The first one, at least. And I was kind of excited for this film because Claire Foy is one of the best actresses working today, and Fede Alvarez has directed one of my favorites, if not my favorite horror movie in the past few years. And he certainly stands out because one of the things that this film does well, and spoiler alert, it doesn't do a lot of things well, is creating atmosphere. He captures the coldness, the greediness, and the violence that you don't necessarily see in a lot of this film's moments. Fede Alvarez certainly has an eye to capture tension and atmosphere, and he creates that a lot throughout this film whenever the film needs it the most. And Claire Foy certainly does a really good job as Lisbeth. I'll get more into the character itself in a bit, but as far as the acting is concerned, nobody is not bringing their A-game. Everyone is doing their jobs as they should. The characters themselves are not very interesting, but the actors certainly are trying to work with the subpar material that they have. That being said, the things that this film does right and about there. This film hints at a lot of things. It hints at the violence, and while sometimes that is good, other times it is not, because this film needs that greediness, that violence, that uber realism that just hits you in the face and that speaks to what these films and these stories talk about. And at the end of the day, it doesn't feel like this film talks about anything. This film feels throughout like it's going for a more action-y vibe, like it wants to be cool and dark and edgy. But since it's not actually rated R, you actually don't see a lot of stuff that you should see. That doesn't really come across. It really comes across like it's trying, but it's not that. It's one of those things where you're trying to be cool, therefore you're not cool. You just have to be cool. The other films are cool. This one is not. I was enjoying this film fine at the beginning, but the moment I realized things were going to sour on me was this moment where Elizabeth is trying to escape the police and she jumps from this dock on a motorcycle to this frozen lake or this frozen river, and she just goes on to the other side and the ice doesn't break at all or anything. And that really is, no pun intended, the tip of the iceberg, because characters' motivations in here don't make sense at all. Lisbeth is a ruthless woman that is taking revenge on everyone who has hurt anyone, and she has a little bit too much mercy in this film, let's say. And Michael Blomkvist, an essential character in her story, in her life, he's basically here to be a plot device and to be leverage for the villains whenever they need Lisbeth to do something. Also, this film does a ton of leaps in logic that are just jaw-droppingly stupid. Characters assume stuff in this film, and of course they get away with it because the film needs to go on and because the script demands it. And Lisbeth eventually at points turns out not to be only a super hacker, which is pretty cool again, but she turns out to be a superhuman who understands human psychology to a degree I don't think I've ever seen. She can understand what people are going to say, what people are going to assume, to astounding levels that just make her come across as an invisible being. I think the villain of this film is pretty obvious, but I'm not going to spoil it, but also the villain's motivations don't make a lot of sense. I'm going to tell you that they want revenge, and of course the plot has to involve nuclear missiles and getting the codes for the nuclear missiles, because we don't get enough movies about nuclear missiles. I might be coming across a little harsher than I intended. This film is okay. It's watchable. If somebody hates this film, I really don't get it. It's absolutely harmless. The direction is good. The performances are okay. It's just these characters and the story that don't gel at all. They don't flow. They don't seem logical. There are so many leaps in this film that leave you scratching your head. It's kind of obvious that this script needed yet another or maybe 2 other rewrites. I'm going to give The Girl in the Spider's Web a C. Guys, what did you think of The Girl in the Spider's Web? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know how you rank this film and the others. I hope you enjoyed this one despite my disappointment in it. And thank you so much for watching. You guys are the best. I'll be back soon with reviews for Beautiful Boy, Vox Lux, and so many others coming in this next week. I hope to see you there. So until the next review, stay beautiful and stay geeky. And if you haven't done so yet, click the subscribe button and the bell so you can be geeky united.